You're listening to This Woman Can with Janice Sutherland, episode 13, Ingrid Riley, Failure is Sexy, Lean Into It and Own Your Brilliance. Welcome to This Woman Can, the Women's Leadership Podcast and your source of information related to women's leadership, female entrepreneurship, personal success and career advancement. I'm your host, Janice Sutherland, Executive Coach, Leadership Development Expert and the author of This Woman Can, the No Bullshit Guide for Women Who Lead. And now, this week's episode. My conversation this week is a woman deeply immersed in the tech industry, Ingrid Riley. I want you to have a listen. It's a really interesting conversation about the power of curiosity and how she managed to embrace failures to make sure she is a success. And also, you're going to hear about the definition of openness. Enjoy. Well, hey everybody, and thank you for joining me on this week's edition of This Woman Can. Now, my guest this week is, how can I describe her, is a woman of many talents. Because when I got her bio through, she told me a lot. She told me she's a technology blogger and that she's been blogging about Caribbean tech and startups since 2005. And her site has readers from over 45 countries around the world, and that it's now DowJones syndicated. She's an events producer, and she's produced and co-produced over 100 Caribbean technology-focused events across 10 Caribbean countries, including Diaspora in the US and my home country, the UK, for entrepreneurs and executives. And she doesn't stop there. She's a speaker and moderator for technology panels and events focusing on Caribbean tech, digital trends, women in tech, entrepreneurship, innovation, and has spoken at numerous events in the Caribbean, USA, Europe, and Africa. She's also, bear with me, a digital strategist where she helps individuals with their personal brands and businesses to help them tell better stories on social media. And she's worked with over 50 Caribbean brands. She's also a tech startup ecosystem pioneer, and she'll probably have to explain that to me a little bit more, and has been credited with and won multiple awards for kick-starting tech startup scene and community in Jamaica. So my guest this week, ladies, is Ingrid Riley of Silicon Caribe. I hope I've got that right, Ingrid.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that introduction. But yes.
And you are such a woman of many, many talents. I know we've met very briefly at a conference before, but can you tell us more about how you got onto this journey and how you got to where you are today?
You know, in my previous life, I was a journalist and as an investigative reporter with a startup, media startup at the time called the Jamaica Observer, which is owned by Gordon Butch Stewart, who owns the Sandals groups across the region. And one thing just led to another. I think what was pivotal for me is that two things was that while there, we were one of the first companies in Jamaica that got internet access for corporate. And we were, bred and corn-fed on, Apple computers.
Yes.
Paired with that, my family, my sister and her husband owned one of the first internet service providers in Jamaica called Jamaica Online. So I was hanging out in technology and all that in so many different ways that I got just more and more curious. I started to spend a lot more time online, even though it was back in the days of dial-up.
I remember it well.
Well, literally, you could basically type in a URL and then hit enter and then go take a shower and come back and maybe the page load. And it was just being curious, following my curiosity that led to doing things like creating the Jamaica and the Caribbean's first internet guide, which was just basically a magazine trying to get people to get aggregated information to a single space to pass on all this exciting stuff that I was learning.
Right.
And it just led to one thing after another. And, I got involved with, early stage startups as a founder. I tried my hand a little bit at angel investing as well. So we did things like Caribbean focused social network called Caribbean Massive at the time. Very, very early online advertising networks called Caribflix. So I just kind of kept following my curiosity, and one of my superpowers I discovered and had to accept is that I'm able to see things a little bit ahead of most people, and I love to connect dots.
Right.
And that's just kind of how it started. I just kept following my curiosity, connecting the dots, and experimenting with a bunch of things.
Okay. So of the many hats that you wear, which do you prefer?
That's like asking me to choose my favorite child.
Do you know what? Don't listen. Every parent has one. They just won't admit it.
Well, the thing that the common thread with all of them is that it all has to do with tech, and it all has to do with digital.
Right.
And it pretty much always have to do with entrepreneurs and how they're leveraging technology to innovate and do very interesting things in business, or they may take a social enterprise. So I just kind of, again, once I find something that feels right for me, then I do it.
Right.
And I explore it and see how far I can go with it.
Okay. So what makes you tick? What makes you keep going in this?
Just the love of technology and the possibilities. I've always said, one of the lines that I tend to use to get especially international speakers to come to my events, and sometimes mostly for free, is that I always have this pitch. I always have this pitch that's like, listen, Jamaica and the Caribbean are going to deliver to the world the technology equivalent of Bob Marley and Usain Bolt and Shelley Ann Fraser and all a bunch of people in between, because we are somewhat underestimated, but we are stunning talent. Look at how much of a global powerhouse we are in sport and culture. Then tech is another frontier for us to discover. And so we just have an amazing talent. I've seen it, from my, many tours of duties across the region and in the diaspora. And I really do believe in that.
Right.
And I believe in the power of the Caribbean to use this digital age to reposition themselves as more powerful, just by understanding what we are really brilliant at, what we have, what I call an unfair advantage in the world, and then pair that with technology and see how much more we can actually be even more dominant and take a bit more control of our destiny. Loans and debt.
Yeah. So as you Jamaicans would say, we're little but we're talawa.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. So Ingrid, you've obviously had a varied career, but describe to us one of the biggest challenges that you faced and how you overcame it and the lessons learned.
I think the biggest challenge was how to monetize it all. Now, there are various business models that, and sometimes you're ahead of your time in trying to, come up with solutions, and you have to experiment a lot to figure out what people are willing to pay and for what. And so I think that's one of the greatest challenges that I've had in terms of how to make. I'm not saying that I haven't made money. I have, and decently. But I'm talking about when it comes to the mega multi-millions, like the 7, 8, 9 figures kind of a thing that we read about. But how I overcame that, and it was just recently,
Okay.
is truly understand that everything is a process.
Yes.
And overnight sensations tend to take between 10 and 15 years.
Right. You hear that? 10 and 15 years. No overnight success. A long night.
Yeah. Not even Beyonce, was a hit in a year.
Yeah.
Right? Not Bill Gates, not any of these women. Oprah was not an overnight sensation by any means for a year.
Yeah.
So I had to become more patient in the process and become more grateful that I'm actually, in this process, and find various ways of enjoying the journey more.
Right.
And because I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
And you want things to happen. You see certain things and you see the potential of certain things, and you want things to happen by tomorrow at 1:15.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen maybe for another 18 months.
Yes.
And you have to. So that's pretty much it. And just understanding that I have to enjoy the journey some more and realize that it is definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
Those 7 and 8 figures. And it will happen at the right and perfect time. And I have to trust that journey and follow my curiosity and follow what my gut leads me to do.
Yeah, I like that because I like what you said about patience, because I came from a corporate environment where patience wasn't a skill that was valued.
Yes.
I definitely had to learn how to be patient, but now in my own business, being an entrepreneur, because one, I suppose it's your own revenues now, your own money you're putting up front. So
right.
You want to make sure you get the best returns.
Yes.
I've really had to, like you say, relearn that patience is definitely a virtue and definitely a skill. Definitely a skill.
Definitely. And in this digital world and technology world where things are changing so fast and so often, you still, even more so, have to find that peace and that patience within all of that, realizing that while things are moving very fast generally, that they're also going through a particular process. Mm-hmm. And so while we're excited about technologies like AI and VR, those things are going to have to go through a particular process too.
Yes, definitely.
So you cool your heels and see where you're going to fit in with that, and then work your process.
Excellent. Now, we talked about challenges, but how has failure made a positive difference in your life?
Oh God, and coming from a country or even a Caribbean culture, with Jamaica, just thankfully, I think over the last 5 or so years that we're, it's primarily due to the technology community there, seeing failure as sexy and realize that it's just part of the process. You can't avoid it. And you just lean into it and take a different mindset to it, that you're going to fail every day. Every single day as an entrepreneur, you're going to fail. If you're in the digital space, you're going to be trying and testing and failing every single day. So once you just say that failure is not the end, it's you're going to break through to another path. Then once you have that mindset, then it's easy. Because but in the early days, when you're still steeped in that whole, you can't admit that you made a mistake, or you can't admit that you failed at this, and you hide and you become, shameful about it. You don't discuss it, and to the point where and that's one of the reasons why I, through the event that my partner and I created, Kingston Beta, we made sure that every event and the community was a safe space to simply share what was going on. So if you had to close that startup, or if you lost money, or if you lost a client, it was a place where it was safe to be. It was a safe place to fail.
Right.
And because people would share their failure stories and how they move past it.
Yes.
But we still have a ways to go in Jamaica and the Caribbean in terms of embracing failure as part of the success process.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Now, Ingrid, do you think it comes with, we've I suppose before you got into this, you've lived a bit of life yourself. So we have the advantage of maturity. Do you think that helps you handle failure, more, I suppose, succinctly than maybe if you were starting out?
Without question. And I think it's just a muscle that you build over time, because, Ingrid now, who's in her 40s compared to Ingrid in her 20s, you're even way more impatient back then and you're way more hard on yourself.
Yeah.
To, when you get around people who, and that's the benefits of traveling as well, and of networking online, you meet people with various stories, and you realize that, no, you're on the right path, and when you compare, hear what other people have been through, you're like, okay, maybe I really should be quiet, because I definitely go through that. And so that's the benefit of talking with people in your community.
Yeah.
And you share real stories, the 360 of the journey.
Yes.
Not just a sexy, successful part.
Yes.
And when you hear that and you hear how it affected them and you hear how they move past it, it's very instructive, and it makes you feel as if you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because you are not. And it helps you to build that muscle, to resilient muscle.
Yeah.
To bounce back from failing. And this, there's this crazy guy who I love, marketer called Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yes.
I follow him. He says, learn to love losing. As an entrepreneur, you're gonna lose every day. You're gonna not get this client, or you're gonna mess up on this particular account. But I said, so what? Learn and keep it going.
And that's the result, is actually if you've learned something from it. Because if
Yes.
you haven't learned and keep doing the same thing over again, you really do need a good slap.
Exactly. Well, the fact that you actually keep doing it, the thing is that as we may have noticed, that when you keep making the same mistake over and over again, it becomes the slap you get gets more hard, get even harder. You get a little pinch one time, and then you may get a little slap on the knee, then you may get a nice punch in the gut, and then you have like a brick over your head. It progressively gets worse,
As my mother would say, who can't hear will feel,
Exactly.
So Ingrid, you talked about you being impatient in your 20s, but what advice would you give to your teenage self?
Do you, regardless of what expectations your family may have of you, or your friends may have of you, or even your country may have of you, you have to set that aside.
Yeah.
And be strong and be very resolute and clear about what it is that you want to do. Excellent. And just simply go ahead and do that. And if you can, communicate with all of the above and tell them, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
This is what I love to do and enjoy doing. It's what I'm really good at. And I'd love your support and love. But if not, I'm going to still keep doing it. And so, but just do you and be okay in just being yourself and pursuing what makes you happy.
Excellent. Now, just changing tact a little bit. What you do in organising the conferences, all the activities you do, means you have to tap into your leadership muscle. So, in your opinion, what makes a great leader?
Clarity, having clarity of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And both on an individual level and also outside of yourself, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And what kind of, be clear about what kind of outcome you're seeking to get from it. Right. So you almost like begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
And then, whatever, be clear too about what it is that you're really great at and what you're really not good at. I mean, I'm more of a visionary, big picture, strategy kind of a girl.
Right.
When it comes to the nuts and bolts and the operational stuff, hate it.
That's your delegation piece, working.
Yeah, and so you just delegate. I was like, okay, I'm gonna handle all of this. Okay, please handle all of that, and then let's keep going. Yeah. Excellent.
Now, I mean, and I hazard a guess, Ingrid, that the industry you're in, even though I'm seeing more women get involved in the tech industry and obviously driving STEM, as I said, there's not enough. So, what advice would you share with women who are embarking and entering in this kind of male-dominated profession?
Well, approach it from the point of view that, fine, while we understand that, yes, it's somewhat male-dominated, it doesn't mean that you should stay away from it.
Right.
And just be curious, and ignore the narrative, because the dominant narrative around women in tech has always been around coders and becoming a programmer.
Yeah.
And you have to look past that and beyond that. It's nice to learn how to code, but it's just a very small aspect of what you can get involved in the tech industry.
Right.
And and that matches your personality, that matches your interest, that matches your skills and curiosity.
Right.
So just be open and follow your curiosity, and seek out, whether online, through blogs, podcasts, go and attend events locally or internationally if you can, and see what others are doing. And just, if AI is interesting to you, then follow up on it. If coding is interesting to you, fine. If blogging and podcasting and doing digital media is interesting to you, then do that.
Right.
Just leave yourself open and go and learn about the various opportunities that are in tech and at different levels, and see where you could possibly fit.
Excellent. So what do you think holds women back from going for their goals if they want to work in this kind of field?
Socialization primarily. In the years of doing Kingston Beta and other events, you'd see women in the audience because they're curious, yeah. And every single time I want to get people to come and pitch, the guys will always outnumber the girls, and I'll literally have to go seeking the women. I say, hey, could you come and pitch? And they're like, no, it's not ready yet. That whole imposter syndrome kind of a thing. Yeah. And I'd literally have to sit with them. I was like, listen, this is what the community is about. It's not about looking great, whatever it is about. It's a learning process. Come and share what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're learning. And that's how we actually kind of got a few more women, pitching and, being on panels and stuff like that. So it's really socialization. And also, when you see the dominant media, visuals and narrative is white male or just male generally.
Yeah.
That whole saying about you can't be what you can't be what you can't see.
Yes.
And so I just believe that it's important for women, especially Caribbean women, Black women, to share their stories, be more visible.
Yeah.
Both for yourself and also for others, so they can see you doing your thing, and hear your story and be able to be inspired by that. There is amazing power in that. Definitely,
because it's a kind of the concept I call being the unconscious influencer. Because you don't think you're ready, and you don't think you're adding value, but there's somebody out there watching you from afar who's watching what you're doing.
Yes.
And it's not you come up to you, and I'm even surprised sometimes when women will come up to me and go, well, I watched you from here, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize you were there or that was happening.
Exactly.
Not conscious influence.
Yes, and that's what has happened to me as well. And that's, even the times when I've, been frustrated along the journey of doing, doing different things in tech across the region, I say, you know what, I'm just going to chill.
Yeah.
And, invariably someone will say, Ingrid, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to see you as a woman leading and doing these events. And, that's one of the reasons why I came. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. And I love the piece you said about socialization, because socialization and the thing about 100% ready, because the thing that women really struggle with, we have to think everything has to be perfect. And I also think it stems back from, even down to our appearance, because we believe we have to look a certain way to be accepted. We believe our work has to be perfect to be accepted. But actually we should be striving for progress as opposed to perfection.
Yes, and I had to learn that too. I had to learn that too. I mean, because I was really hard on myself in the early days, and it's been a process to unlearning that it's okay.
Yes.
And just lean into the process as long as you're progressing.
Yeah.
At your pace, and you learn also to don't compare yourselves to your family or your friends or to others. You're running your race in your lane.
Very much. We can't all be Usain.
No, not at all. There's only one Usain Bolt.
There's only one Usain. So Ingrid, if you share with us a success quote or a mantra that you use and why it's meaningful for you.
Okay, can I sneak in two?
Yeah, of course you can. I won't say no.
One is to thine own self be true.
Right.
And it's really about bringing all of yourself to whatever you're doing, and just be authentic as possible, and being who you are 360. You know what I mean? Showing all aspects of you, all the multidimensional parts of you. That could be why I've been wearing all these hats, because I decided if I like it and I want to do it, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So it's just about, to thine own self be true, doing what feels right for you. Excellent. And for you only, not what anybody else think is right, but for you.
Yeah.
And the other one, I think I read a novel years ago. It's called To Be the Best.
Right.
And it's always been in the back of my head that I want to be the best, in the world at what I do.
Yeah.
And what I love to do. And those are sort of the two things that I have in my head, that helps me to make decisions.
What part does authenticity play for you?
100%. And that's, I'm not exactly what they call the cookie cutter kind of a woman, right? I'm 5'9". I have this big, natural afro. I swear like a sailor sometimes. I'm gay.
Yeah.
I love to travel. So, and I just, so, and even just saying all of that, I would never have said that even a year or 2 or 3 or 4 ago, because I was not fully, if you want to call it, in bloom.
Yes.
And so it's really authenticity and in just being myself without even having to wear certain labels, just being myself in all its forms, physically, philosophically, is important to me, because I realize that when I'm really kind of in my aki that way, the success and the opportunities just flow to me with ease.
Beautiful. And I like that when you talk about the authenticity, because you're in your 40s, I'm in my 50s, or maybe an age you shouldn't ask a woman. And like you say, there's only the past couple of years, there's a couple of things I've accepted about myself. And I think you, like you say, you have to bloom. You definitely have to bloom. You grow, you bloom, and you flower, you blossom, and everything is, then you realize, wow, this is where I want to be. Yeah.
And I mean, we're given this one big, beautiful life to live. And how can we not allow ourselves to be completely?
Yeah.
And allow ourselves to just blossom in all our wonderfulness, that God has made us. So I think that is our responsibility.
Brilliant. And Ingrid, if you could choose your own mentor, who would it be and why?
Oh God, it would be Oprah.
Oprah again, that woman that gets everywhere.
You know why? Here's why. She's Black.
Yes.
She is being completely herself.
Yes.
Oprah has no issues bawling in front of whoever it is. She has no issues being a fangirl. She has no issues being Oprah, the businesswoman who will, negotiate and, do cutthroat deals.
Yeah.
She stands in who she is in all of her Oprah-ness.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a word. Oprah-ness is a word.
Yeah. Just unapologetically. Yeah. And also she's a digital media mogul, and she's mission driven, and that's my thing too. I'm mission driven, and she's mission driven. She's being her authentic self, and she is happy, healthy, and freaking rich.
Yeah, for real. Most definitely. Can't wrong that at all. And
she has this amazing influence on being able to change things for the better for many people.
Yeah.
And so that's my reason. Those are my reasons.
Excellent. And if people have definitely listened to a story, like you said, she's not an overnight success.
That's correct.
She worked from the bottom up and was told she wouldn't make it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, a woman who is truly led by who she is, and also she trusts herself and her instincts, and only does what feels right for her. So on all those reasons why I would, I definitely will have Oprah as a mentor.
Brilliant. And Ingrid, what are the 3 things you've learned about yourself during your career?
Um, how resilient I am.
Okay.
How brilliant I am at what I do. And I really work hard at that.
Love it.
And and that I really, really, I really love what I do.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that answer. And I'll tell you why I love that answer. You owned your brilliance.
Yeah.
You know, so many women won't accept compliments or won't accept that they're really good at what they do, and play small, downplay their own.
Yeah.
So I love that you own it, and I also love resilience.
Yeah.
Because it's a very underrated skill, that bounce back ability.
Yeah. Super important.
Yes. You know, we have to learn how to be rubber balls, people. Definitely.
Yeah.
So Ingrid, where would we find you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Highly likely in bed. Because I like my lazy, wake up on weekends. I'm probably typically in bed listening to podcasts or reading some book.
Right.
And outside of that, it's either with maybe out having fun with friends, out for brunch or whatever it is. But that's typically it.
Excellent. And my last couple of questions, Ingrid. What's your definition of success?
Being able to do what I love, and for what I love, to love me back both intrinsically and extrinsically.
Excellent. And lastly, what does it mean to you to be your own hero?
Where I just simply get to say to myself, you're doing good, Ingrid. Just keep going. Yeah. You're doing all right. Yeah. Everything will be okay. Just keep going.
Excellent. And what I've seen and what I've heard, Ingrid, you are doing okay. You're doing all right. You're doing good.
Thank you.
So if anybody our listeners wants to get hold of you or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
And I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I spend a lot of time trying to be a fire start on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. And of course, you can email me, ingrid@siliconcaribe.com. Happy to talk with anybody.
Excellent. And I'll put all your contact details in the show notes.
I appreciate it.
So Ingrid, thank you so much for being my guest this morning. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I enjoyed conducting the interview with Ingrid. And there were a few things I took away from that, a few really powerful things. The first thing was patience. I'm not the most patient person, but I've definitely learned how to be patient over the past 12, 18 months. So undergoing my own entrepreneurial journey and moving out of the corporate field. And she pointed out quite rightly that there's no such thing as an overnight success. Even though it may look like it has happened overnight, when you really dig deeply, you see there's a lot of groundwork gone into whatever's happened for people to get to where they are. And it's exactly the same thing when you become a leader, when you embark on your career. You don't automatically overnight become a fantastic leader. You have to put the work in. You have to put the effort. You really have to focus on what it is you want to do. What I also loved about this was her about embracing failure and the fact that failure is sexy and how we have to learn from it. Too many times we as women actually stop ourselves from taking that next big thing, from taking that next great opportunity, because we're absolutely paralyzed by the fear of failure, thinking that it's not going to go right. What will people think? We're going to fail. We don't know enough. I'm like an imposter. There's loads of things that go into how we feel and how we fear failure. And I'm going to do another episode on that, about failure and some of the things I've learned along my journey. So listen out for that. And I also liked how she talked about how media has socialized the narrative of women in tech. And we've seen it in a lot of things, not just in tech, about women leaders, how we should act, what we should look like. The fact there are very few female leaders in the industry, and definitely few female Black leaders, even more. You think about the normal narrative is the pale, male and stale. So, the white men who are leaders. And I harken back to the movie Hidden Figures, where the big NASA scientists were Black women. But you would never have known this. This is never in the media until this came out in the book. So yes, I think, her point about the media control the narrative was very, very powerful. And the other piece about ignoring that narrative and looking beyond, what you see out there, explore, embrace curiosity, learn how to just be nosy. I mean, that's what she's given us permission to be nosy. I think that's the best thing. So as I said, I took a lot away from that interview from Ingrid. I love the conversation. And if you want to hear more, obviously go along to Silicon Caribe and you can read a lot more about what she does and what she does in the tech industry. So that all remains to be said is thank you so much for tuning in to This Woman Can this week. Again, if you want some help, support, by all means, follow me on the social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook. I am Janice Sutherland. Drop a line to me at info@janicesutherland.com or on Facebook or on Instagram. I'm there too. Be ready for Ask Janice questions next week. And I really look forward to hearing from you. And thank you so much for joining me. If you've liked what you've heard, which I know you have, please be sure to share it or go along to my website, janicesutherland.com, to sign up to make sure you don't miss another episode. So until next week, remember, if I can, you can, this woman can. Thank you for joining me. You've been listening to the This Woman Can podcast, brought to you by This Woman Can, the no bullshit guide for women who lead, available on Amazon and Kindle. For more information about the training and consulting services offered for women who lead, including one-on-one executive coaching and group masterminds, visit thiswomancan.coach.